Hey everybody, my name is Dan Gage, and I'm in my basement talking about bourbon. Okay, my last video talked about how to get the Pappy Van Winkle. It just takes a little bit of effort, it really does. It's not impossible. But what people do on the interwebs, as it were, what people do is they talk about bourbons that are like other bourbons, and they draw corollaries. In the case of what we're talking about today, we're talking about this bad boy, okay? This is William LaRue Weller 12-year aged product, okay? Now I put all these bourbons in a line to explain the lineage here. Now, they're not necessarily in order, but they're sort of in the order of my favorite. Anyway, every single one of these bourbons is made using the same mash bill. Now mash bill is the ratio of corn to usually rye, but in this case wheat, okay? So bourbon is primarily corn. And there's some amount of what's called a balance grain or a flavor grain that goes along with the corn. So you can make bourbon at 100% corn if you wanted to, but usually it's somewhere around 65% corn, 70% corn, 30%, 40% rye, okay? And a little bit of malted barley, but we don't need to talk about the chemistry of that process. Just think of it generally as corn and rye. Now, in some cases, people will make their bourbon with wheat as the secondary grain instead of rye. And that's the case here. It's the case with Maker's Mark as well. Little bit of trivia. Old Pappy was friends with Bill Samuels, and helped him start Maker's Mark back in the day. But that's not part of this discussion. Anyway, we're talking about mash bill. So each one of these products is made with the same initial mash bill. Okay, certain percentage of corn, certain percentage of wheat. Okay, now clearly these aren't the same product. Okay, there's a lot more to bourbon than the mash bill that goes into the brewing step before distillation and before aging. There's a huge variability with the aging process. The barrels themselves vary, and the time, the temperature that the barrel sees in the time that's in the warehouse has an enormous effect on the overall taste and quality of the bourbon. Okay, these bourbons will taste reminiscent to one another because they're all made with wheat. There will be certain characteristics that are different from a rye bourbon. However, this one is going to be nowhere near as yummy as, say, this one. Okay, there's a quality difference in between. So what people like to do is they like to say, well, if you can't find Pappy 12, okay, then the Weller 12, then they're the same thing. So it's the same thing. This doesn't matter. This is a $35 bourbon. This is the people are trying to sell it for $200. It's crazy. Crazy. It's the same thing. Just drink it. Okay, it's not the same thing. They're reminiscent of one another. If you taste them next to one another, you definitely can tell they came from the same general source, okay? But there's a reason why this one is retailed at half as much as this one, okay? They choose the barrels very carefully to match a very select flavor profile. And while, yes, you can get away with this, and it's a very good bourbon for the money, it's not this, okay? It's not just the same material that's dumped into different bottles. It goes through years of aging and a very select process. So what's happening is people are clamoring for this bourbon like it's this, okay? And it's driving demand and it's going crazy. Now, absolutely, do you want to get your hands on this if you can? Sure. But hoarding every single one of them that you see, well, because the other guys are doing it, maybe you have to, right? But I just want to make it clear, if you ever get the chance to taste them next to each other, you'll notice that this is, it's a little more musty. Maybe it's not quite as fresh and the flavors don't develop quite as well. This has nothing, for my palate, there's nothing I don't like about this. This one's really good, but it's a $35 bourbon. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's my opinion on it. Absolutely go and do the research yourself. These are easily gotten, and it's fun to taste your way through a company's product so you can teach yourself that what you think are minor variables actually turn out to be very extreme or very important variables. These are all going to taste different because that's what they're being selected and in this case blended for. Different barrels. Okay, so my name is Dan Gage. That was a little bit about Weller 12 and Van Winkle Lot B12. I hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned to my channel if you want to learn to play the harmonica, and we'll see if we can you know, make some more bourbon videos too. Okay, thank you guys. Oh yeah.